So why didn't the skeleton cross the road? Because he didn't have the guts. Welcome, Earthlings, to Trip on Two Wheels. I'm glad you could make it today. I'm glad I could make it today. Look at this weather. It's absolutely gorgeous. Not a cloud in the central Texas sky. Thank you, Jesus. Back by popular demand, more safety tips that no one's ever told you and probably never will. Got another batch of 7 that I'd like to share with y'all today. The first video seems to be doing well. The original 7 safety tips that no one ever told you and probably never will. I'm going to follow it up with 7 more today. So tip number 1. You know, it's very important for you to be seen on a motorcycle. That's pretty much necessary if you're going to survive as a rider. But on the other hand, it's incredibly important also for you to see everything and everybody. So the first tip of the day is to buy yourself some convex little stick-on mirrors, little 1-inch stick-on mirrors. Kind of like a bug-eye lens, except in reverse. You stick those suckers right there. Now you notice I don't have any on my bike, but I am going to shortly.
See, I wasn't lying to you.
And what do? Well, they virtually eliminate your blind spot. You know, we're always so worried about being in cars or in the blind spot of cars. But, you know, one of the very dangerous things is having a car in your blind spot and you turning into that person and hitting them. You're going to get by far the worst of that encounter. Safety tip number 2 has to do with riding boots. Now, we all know that if you're playing it smart, you're wearing some sort of riding boot, and ideally you want a leather boot or something made out of a very durable protective material. And you want it to, of course, to have ankle protection. You want the boots to come over your ankles. But a couple things about boots that they don't tell you. First off, if you can, opt for Velcro closures over boot laces or shoelaces. Well, why is that? Well, let's say you've got a bow that's hanging loose and it gets caught in something to do with the frame or the foot peg or the crash bar or what have you. You go to put your foot down or pick your foot up at an intersection, you're coming to a stop wherever, you're falling over. You know, at the very least, you're going to suffer embarrassment. On top of that, you're probably going to hurt your bike. You could hurt your leg because your leg's going to be pinned under there because your shoelace is attached to something. So what do? Well, go for Velcro. If you don't go for Velcro, and there's no absolute reason that you have to, because you can make your boot laces a lot safer. The first thing you do is when you tie your boots, you make those loops in the bow less long. And then, to make those bows even shorter, is you tie a half knot with the bows when you're done tying the bootlace. And that significantly reduces the risk of a lace getting caught in something and causing you to fall over. Tip number 3, and I'm doing it right now, and I forget to do this often, and I shouldn't, but you should never ride in the center of the lane on a highway, a roadway like this. Where do cars and motorcycles and every vehicle that uses the highway, where do they emit liquids from? And you can see the drip trail going woo right down there, and it's right in the middle of the lane. Now, as you can tell, I'm not riding all the way over to the left-hand side of the lane or all the way over to the right, but just avoid that middle foot or so. It's just so important to avoid that slippery part of the lane when you're riding, especially in curves. Number 4, the 4th safety tip that no one ever told you and probably never will, is watch where you put your feet when you come to a stop, particularly at intersections. This is related closely to the prior tip. So you come up to an intersection and what do you see? Or don't see if you miss it? Puddles of water left by air conditioning. This is particularly dangerous in warmer states in the middle of summer. I've pulled up before and almost dumped the bike. You put your boot down. Hello, kind sir. You put your boot down into a little puddle of air conditioning drip water, and it's slippery, and you're coming to a stop. You put your foot and your weight on it. Boom. You can go down. I've never done that before, but I've come real close. There's also all sorts of weird things at intersections. I've found screws and nails and all sorts of garbage, and they usually tend to be in the center because car tires will kick them up and put them in the center. Now, tip number 5 is for those who wear armored jackets. Some of you opt for leather. Some have leather with armor. Some have nylon, ballistic nylon with elbow pads and shoulder pads in them. That's what I favor. I've got 2 jackets like that. The tip here is to keep those jackets snug. If you've got adjustable Velcro straps, latches, snaps, you always want to keep those as snug as you can. You don't want to buy them too big either. If you've lost a lot of weight, you want to get a new jacket. If you have a jacket for summer riding and a jacket for winter riding, and the winter riding jacket's going to be a little baggy because you've got some other layers on it, that's fine, but you always want your jackets to be snug. Well, why is that? Well, let's say that the arms are baggy, the jacket's baggy. Your pieces of armor, be it on the chest, be it on the sides, the elbows, the shoulder pads, they get loose and they get sloppy. And God forbid you go flying off the bike and go down, you're skidding around. If that elbow pad or shoulder pad is out of place, it's not doing you any good. If your sleeves in your jacket are fairly snug, then those elbow pads, shoulder pads, etc. are going to be in place. If your torso is snug, that armor is going to stay in place too, and when you go off that bike, it is going to do its intended job and protect you. Number 6, and this safety tip, it improves your odds of survival if you do have a mishap. Very important. And I didn't really think about this until after I've been riding several years, but it makes a lot of sense, and I highly recommend that everybody do this. You need to have an information card on you. Let's say you dump that bike, you go off the bike, you get in an accident, and you end up in the hospital. Well, what are they doing? They don't know your blood type, they don't know your medical history, they don't know if you're allergic to anything, they probably don't even know who you are. What happens if you didn't have your wallet on you? So what you need to do, and what I have done, and maybe I'll show you a picture of this in a bit, maybe I won't because it's got personal information on it, but take your health insurance card. I can't stress this enough. You know, people show up to the hospital, if they don't know who you are, who you have for insurance, or what kind of insurance you have, at least in the States, once they get you out of the ER, once they get you out of trauma, if you're still unconscious, you're in a coma, whatever, they may not give you the same level of care if they know your insurance isn't as good as it is, or what have you. I mean, sorry to say that, but I've learned the hard way, it's true. So on that card, what do you need? You need your identification. Ideally, a photocopy of your driver's license. Then a photocopy of your insurance card. You need your blood type. You need listed any allergies you have to different medicines. That is so important. And then you need an emergency contact. Who do they need to contact in case you're in an accident? Do you have a family doctor? Is his name or her name on there? And then finally, your next of kin. God forbid something should happen to you and you die and they don't know who you are. You know, they'll find out sooner or later, I'm sure, but, you know, let's give them some help. Now, tip number 7, and this is more for the safety of your wallet. I would say wallet and driving record. Driving a car, have you ever driven down the road and an oncoming car flashes its headlights at you? Well, what are they trying to tell you? Well, you probably got it right. Most people know this. Hey, that there's a cop down the road. So how many of you knew that there is also a signal between motorcycle riders for the same thing? Have you ever seen a rider approaching you in the other lane going the opposite direction and patting himself on the top of the helmet. It means a cop is down the road. Slow down, pay attention, don't get pulled over for speeding or reckless driving or whatever you happen to be doing, and hopefully you won't happen to be doing any of those things. So there you have them. 7 safety tips that no one has ever told you and probably never will. Look, I'm riding in the middle of the lane, shouldn't be doing that. And I've been talking too much today. I am going to sign off here and just enjoy this beautiful day of riding. Please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel and become a part of Tripp on 2 Wheels family, the Tripp on 2 Wheels nation. Soon to be 5 billion strong. Watch out, PewDiePie. I'm out of here, folks. This is Tripp on 2 Wheels. Until next time, ride safe and ride often. Why did the chicken cross the beach? To get to the other tide. I knew you'd love it.